Thank you all for attending our panel here at Scope. The panel is focused or titled on what do Olympic medalist Lindsey Vonn and protocol compliance management have in common. For those who don't know the name Lindsey Vonn, she is one of the best skiers of all time. Downhill, slalom, you name it, and lots of gold medals and world champion. We'll show some videos and some pictures throughout the presentation, so that will probably help those who don't recognize the name remember who she is. As for protocol compliance management, let's define that. If you have protocol deviations, you're not compliant with the protocol, you could have poor screening, patient safety issues, mismanagement of labs or materials. And net result is longer study, more cost, and poor data submission for the regulators. Conversely, with protocol compliance management, you end up with good, clean data, and so higher quality data and fewer patient safety issues. And those are the two hallmarks or leading points from the ICH E6 R2 guidance from a couple of years ago. To help us get into this comparison, I've got Esther Howard with us, and Esther's the CEO of Bezyl. She has got hundreds of clinical trials under her belt, so she's seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and can really speak to how you can get better protocol compliance and what the results are of that. Esther, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a couple of examples?
Sure, thank you, Mark. I'm excited to be here. This is a topic near and dear to my heart because in the 20 years of the industry and clinical research that I've been in, most of it's been in oncology, which is very complicated. And I've been through a lot of inspections with all the different regulatory agencies across the world. So protocol compliance management has been the focus of, well, the last 20 years of my life. And it's really great to see the improvements that we're making using technology to improve how we train and ensure the protocol is properly delivered, that we're ensuring patient safety and quality and efficiency and endurance through our clinical trials. So Mark, thanks for having me, and I'm excited about this discussion.
Thanks, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to it. First, a little bit about myself and about ScienceMedia. I'm the CEO of ScienceMedia. I've got a PhD in computer science, but what that means for today is I've always focused on bringing technology and information together to provide tools that help out the workflow of life science professionals. At ScienceMedia, we have a suite of products that really focus in on our mission statement, which is how to improve clinical competency. We have SMI Source, which is a very deep, rich resource of information on diseases. So what is the disease, the patient journey, the clinical treatment of that disease. And that's used primarily by CROs and by sponsors so that staff better understands the ins and outs of the clinic and the patient. So when they're out talking to HCPs, there's more of a peer-to-peer conversation. We also have a suite of products called SMI Trial. SMI Trial and SMI Trial to the Power of D, or decentralized, is a platform that focuses on protocol compliance management. It provides information to all that are participating in a study, whether that's the patient, the study coordinator, a pharmacy tech, a home healthcare provider. And it provides just the information they need, so it's role specific, when they need it throughout the entire life of the study. We also measure whether people really understand what they're supposed to do, and that can provide early indications of potential problems so you can mitigate before the mistakes happen. The information that we get out and the studies that we've seen are parts of what we're going to cover today. So we're going to start with patient safety. And even though Lindsey Vonn is world-class, she also pushes herself to the extremes, and as such has a few patient safety issues. So here's a crash from one of her sessions.
Now has dropped back. Vaughn over the top, and she is down heavily. Lindsey Vaughn.
Right at the end, the audio continues and gets worse. So sorry about that. She does recover, but she broke her leg in many areas by really pushing the limits. So Esther, let's get started. Where's patient safety come in with regard to
well, yeah, Lindsay's not a patient, but she just became one. And I think that we're going to talk a little bit about taking care of patients who are already patients. Yeah, so Lindsey Vaughn having that crash, it definitely is makes my heart jump a little bit there. I'm thinking back to all of the clinical trials that I've managed to work with various sponsors on, and at first and foremost, patient safety is our number one priority all the time, 100%. And in order to ensure patient safety, I think about it from the patient perspective, and then I think about it from the sponsor perspective. As a patient participating in a trial, how can I ensure that I am going to have a safe experience to the best of the ability of the sponsor's team and of the drug or whatever device or anything that I might be using. And from the sponsor's perspective of making sure that we've done everything we can to make sure that the patient is safe. So I worked in the CRO industry and I represented the sponsor running the trials that I did. And I wanted to make sure that whatever we needed to do, we did with the safety of the patient in mind. So if I'm a patient and I'm in a clinical trial and I'm taking a certain drug, I'm going to be comforted by the fact that the sponsor provides good training to me. They provide good tools. It's very clear to me what the protocol is and what I need to be doing to ensure my own safety. I need to know where to report if I get drug and it doesn't look right, like maybe it's a little hazy or looks just not right. How do I report that? Or if something's wrong, if I have an adverse event, how do I report that? All of that knowledge helps ensure my safety as a patient in the trial. And then on the flip side, for the sponsor, making sure that I've provided the right training to my staff, to the project team that's running the trial, to the site that's directly responsible for the patient, and being able to see all of that in real time. So ensuring patient safety is a big environment of safety. It's not just one thing. It's as a sponsor being responsible for oversight of how that trial is delivered and making sure everybody knows what they should be doing in real time.
You've been involved in decentralized trials, and I want to explore that a little bit more. Way on back when we did just clinic-based studies, we were still involved with educating patients for instance, home health or home injection of the investigational product. And that was, initially watching what didn't work and then finding better tools and videos and small pieces that would help. But it was still initially from a controlled environment of a clinic and a nurse sitting down with the patient. As we move more and more to decentralized approach and less in that controlled environment of the clinic, where do you see patient safety coming down? Is it going to be even worse? Are there tools available to help out with that?
I am the person that's going to put my hand up and say, I think decentralized clinical trials actually make patient safety better. And there's a few reasons for that. And I think that there could be a whole discussion simply on that topic in another forum, but being able to have oversight of what's going on in your trial in real time all the time, at the click of a button or just looking at a dashboard is in of itself better than the old way of running a clinical trial. I'll never forget the days of having to go back and find safety reports or find the AEs or find concomitant medications that my patients had been taking or we didn't know about, and then we find out about them 6 months later. I'll also never forget the days where we just weren't sure, like, if the training was right, if the patient was administering her drug correctly. And now we know that in real time, we have the opportunity to use digital health tools, like just telehealth is one of them, or being able to have the right dashboard, and having that confidence when things change, that we can roll out those changes to everybody, including the patients, in real time, and know that it's done, and know that it's done right. So to me, we should all be embracing the decentralized clinical trial model quickly, because of patient safety and the improvement in it.
Great answer. We got to be careful not to get too far out there, but I agree, with the right tools, we can see what's happening and intervene faster. So efficiency. Here, the audience can watch this. The sound's fine. She doesn't fall.
Still well ahead of the second split time. The 25-year-old was rock solid. She had the speed, the precision, the style, and the confidence.
This was after a full recovery from the prior video, and she goes on to win a gold. Just amazing. So Esther, in a busy clinical environment with technologies now with decentralized trials, how do you make sure the study is efficient without letting the technology or the interventions get in the way?
Well, I think this is one of my favorite topics, because efficiency is so important. I like to be able to answer a question from maybe my site or one of my team members in real time as quickly as possible. That in of itself creates an efficiency that is hard to measure, but you feel it in the moment. When the site reaches out to you and says, hey, I can't really remember how to do this, or is this the right form, being able to answer right away instead of taking a few hours or even a few days to answer that is in of itself efficient. And then there's the other applications of efficiency, of just being able to deliver the protocol and have that confidence that everybody has been properly trained, is able to reference their training materials and not having to dig them up in files and worry about whether they're digging up the right versions. Same thing even with an ICF. Consenting patients is a training process. Being able to know that the patients have had the right consent delivered to them in the right time. All of that creates efficiencies that then compound themselves. And finally, monitoring. It reduces the amount of monitoring that you have to do, because you don't have as much paper to look at, and you have your CRAs, and you can look at everything remotely, or most things now. And so the efficiency just continues to compound itself as you dig in and peel down the layers of how protocol compliance management can change things.
We've always thought, if the information is available and it's really easy to get to it from your phone or whatever people would use it. But many people say, no, there's too much technology, and you do work the way you've always done work. So we went back and looked at a study recently, and it's one that started well over a year ago. And we were very pleased to see that the site personnel are accessing the system about 140,000 times each and every month. Now, on the platform, we have the protocol, we have sponsor material, we have some of our material, third-party material, we have a portal to third-party systems. There's a lot there. But what was pleasantly shown with this is that it's really used. The sites will embrace technology if it's effective for them.
Yeah, if it works. It actually makes me think of something. I remember in the past having to access training materials, and yeah, the same level of access, the same number of touch points probably happened that we just couldn't measure because it wasn't electronic. But having to search through my desk for the paper, or through the files on my desktop, or into a TMF file or work area, in itself just took forever. And now just click on where those should be housed and click on the training materials that are provided through a good robust protocol compliance management system, and it's done. You've got the right answer and you got it right away.
You mentioned amendments earlier in
Yeah.
our conversations, and that's really where things get right. It's like, am I remembering that version or this version, or what's different? And to have it at your fingertips sure helps. So you like patient safety and efficiency. How about quality?
I'm hoping that some of the sponsors that I've worked with in the past are watching this little dialogue between us, because the number one question that I was always asked every single time I met a new sponsor was, how do you oversee and ensure quality for my trial? And I remember like the heat rising into my face as I would answer that, because I knew how hard it was. I knew how hard I've worked in the past and how hard I would work for them to make sure that there was quality. But to ensure quality, you have to have confidence that the right training is in the right hands of every single person that touches that trial, regardless of their role. And that's worrisome, because you can have a project manager on your trial that has never had experience in that therapeutic area. Like, for example, an oncology project manager that has only ever done cardiovascular trials. They need to understand the therapeutic area to a certain extent. And it would worry me if I didn't have the confidence in my team members. And I'm trying to convince a client that I'm going to ensure quality. So there's the confidence, but then there's layering in process with metrics, and then process itself to ensure quality. And overarching of all of that is the training of everyone. So being able to pull all of that together, being able to show quality measures in real time throughout the trial, be ready for an inspection any day, not taking 3 months to prepare for one. All of that pulled together ensures high quality, safety, and efficiency. If we want to pull back into the last two discussions into one nice package, and it's something that I would have confidence in today.
There's a lot of conversation about wearables. And when you think about ensuring quality at the patient level, what's working? What do you like that's out there?
It's a fun discussion to have, and I like having this one with people. My personal favorite is wearables themselves. Is a patient wearing a Fitbit, for example, or I don't care. Actually, I'm a Garmin fan, but that's not in too many clinical trials yet. I was actually at a meeting, or like just at a dinner meeting a few months ago, and talking to a guy, and he was, we were having a conversation about clinical research industry evolving. I only thought of him as a clinical research professional. All of a sudden, he shows me the Fitbit that's on his wrist, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm part of this heart failure trial with this Fitbit." And he walked me through the experience that he had with it, and how confident he felt as a patient, and how it was the best experience ever. And I think I cried because I had helped stand that trial up, that exact trial, and I didn't tell him who I was. And it was just like a really good moment, reinforcing that we're on the right track with what we're doing.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. It's always great and rewarding to hear that it's truly affecting patients. Oh, endurance. Kettlebells and workouts, and I'm sure Lindsay does a whole lot more of that than I ever have. But as you know, we all forget. We'll forget, things from a few hours ago, and much less running a clinical trial that's going to last for 3, 4, 5 years. So endurance is the title here. How do you effectively keep people at their A game through the whole life of the study?
That's a really tough one. Aside from sending them Starbucks gift cards, no, I'm kidding. Well, actually, in seriousness, it starts with the beginning, which is ensuring that they've got training in front of them that's memorable. I think every single one of us has had to take trainings of some kind and don't remember it, or you can't absorb what the training is trying to convey. So there's the starting point, which is that. but then being able to, build onto it when things change, or as time goes by, make it in a way so that it's easily accessible and you can do refreshers on an ongoing basis and they're enjoyable and useful. And the person that's being trained feels like it's a good use of their time, that they're able to do their job better because of it. So, I think this is really important, and maybe like the unspoken underlying thread of this all to protocol compliance management, because if it's effective when it's first delivered, and then it can be built upon and it can be referenced along the way, then your team is going to be effective through the entire course of the trial, not just at the beginning and then it slip off and wane.
Part of it in their view is also measurements, like you've said. So asking a question at different points through the study. You can start at the beginning, somebody reads a protocol, then ask them some questions. And there you've identified what they don't understand, and you can serve up some information. But fast forward a year or two into the study, some sites may be performing better than others, and you can learn from what's going on at the mistakes that are being made and that sort. And usually they often tie back to questions that you'd asked up front and identified up front. Well, for endurance, send periodic questions out. Might take a minute out of somebody's day, and yet instantly with the technology, you can find out who has forgotten a few things and just send them a 5-minute video as a refresher. And we have found that not only does that work and keeps people's understanding at a high level as it wanes over time, they also appreciate it, because everybody wants to perform at their top level in clinical trials.
I also like that it helps us measure the effectiveness of
Lindsey Vonn had ripped down the hill in devastating fashion. Vonn was the Olympic champion.
Sorry about that. Technology.
That's okay.
And it's on speed, and speed as we start to wrap up here. I wish someday I could ski like that. I wish I could just ski better than how I normally do. But as I was preparing for this, I thought back to the last live scope meeting that I was at, which was 2 years ago, February 2 years ago. And it was there that we reported some outcomes of a protocol compliance management application. It was about a phase 3 registration study. And in that study, they had lessons learned from the past, and that was where you sort of focused in and saying, let's not have these mistakes happen as you ramp up the study. Fast forward, the end result was the study finished 7 months ahead of schedule. And as we dug into it, it was because there are fewer screening failures, so that was faster. There are fewer patient dropouts. There are fewer mistakes of dosing people incorrectly, which had happened because it was a complex multi-arm study. And the net result was they didn't need to have as many patients in. The client at that point ended up, the sponsor got a drug to market or therapeutic to market 6 months ahead of schedule, which means more revenue, and they're a very happy client. So we've seen results from the clinical base to the decentralized side. And on this last slide, I wanted to pass it back to you, Esther, to say, how do you see it working to speeding up trials along with making the quality better?
I mean, I think you did a good job summarizing some of the key aspects to contributing factors of speed. But just to relate it back to my own experience, I remember the very first trial I was ever on and that I managed as a project manager. And then I remember subsequent trials along the way. And I keep thinking back to inspection experiences because for some reason I was always on trials that were heavily inspected, and I have a lot of inspection experience as a result. The very first one that we prepared for, it took us months. And then when we got there, it took several weeks to get through, and we had reams and reams and reams of paper sitting in these rooms, just like stacks and stacks of it. And I remember the inspector asking me questions, and I was very nervous and had to go back to paper files to pull up the answers. And then I remember one of the more recent inspections I was in just a couple of years ago, And it was like, it was electronic based. I felt more prepared. I had been trained better. I had more confidence in the training that my team had received. On top of the points that you just raised, that those are the ones I would add to it. So I would be excited to be have a trial again and get inspected with a nice polished protocol compliance management system in place.
Great. Well, I really thank you for your time, your thoughts on this, Esther. We're going to take questions through the chat room within the app for anyone who's attending. ScienceMedia has a setup or a booth at the Scope meeting, so please stop by and we can show you some of our technology and talk more. But I really appreciate your time, Esther. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.